Morning. Good morning. Half a day. The Committee on General Government Operations, Appropriation, Housing is now called to order. And for the record, today is Friday, January 11th. And the time now is 9:03. Notice for this budget hearing was disseminated via email to all senators and all main media outlets. First public notice was given on May 28th, followed by June 3rd and June 4th. The committee will hear and accept testimonies on Bill 55-36 COR, the fiscal year FY22 Appropriation Act as requested by the Governor, relative to the Mayor's Council of Guam fiscal year 2022 budget request. I'd like to acknowledge the senators, my colleagues that have joined us. We have Senator Tony Ada, we have Senator Telo Tariwi, we have my Vice Chair of the committee, Senator Amanda Shelton, and we have the Oversight Chair of the Mayor's Council, Senator Jose Piru Tarlay. General rules for this public hearing. Those testifying on behalf of Bill 55-36 relative to Mayor's Council of Guam. We have from the Mayor's Council, we have Angel Sablan and Anthony Chargaff, Mayor Anthony Chargaff. Angel Sablan is the Executive Director of the Mayor's Council. Written testimonies shall be submitted to the committee. Please provide my legislative staff with written testimony for photocopying. Testimonies may be read, and lengthy testimony should be summarized to about 5 minutes. If you need more time, we'll allow the time. All right? Those testifying will be allowed to present oral testimony. Once you're done, please remain in the room for questions or for additional testimony as may be desired by members of the committee. Questions and testimony shall be confined to the substance or nature of this agenda, which is the budget of the Mayor's Council of Guam. Personal inference as to the character or the motive of any senator or any individual testifying is not permitted. Any violation of the general rule of conduct will result in removal from the budget hearing room. Proper form and decorum shall be practiced by all present in the public hearing room for these proceedings. Individuals who fail to maintain proper form and decorum may be restricted from providing oral testimony and may be asked or actually will be removed from the room. When you speak, please make sure that the microphone is on and that you speak into the microphone. Please state your name and your title for the record. At this time, I ask the Sergeant Arms to ask the panel to please rise and for our Sergeant Arms to please swear them in.
Kindly raise your right hand. Under penalty of perjury, do you all affirm that any and all information that you provide today, whether it be electronically, writing, or verbally, be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Okay. Mr. Chair, they're both under oath. You may proceed.
All right, thank you. Mr. Sablan, Executive Director, do you have any slides you want to present, or are you just going to testify? Okay, because I was told that you have like 100 pages, but that's okay. We'll allow you all the time you need. And I know the mayor is going to echo your statements in support of all the mayors. So, Mr. Sablan, if you can go ahead and start.
Mananas Jesus, buenas, Janafade, Honorable Guéhilo, Senador Joe S. Agustin, and then Honorable Guéhilo, Senador Jose Piru Tarlay, Honorable Senadora Amanda Shelton, Honorable Senador Tony Ada, and Honorable Senadora Telo Tariwi. Guau, I am Angel Sablan, the Executive Director of the Mayor's Council of Guam, and with me today is the Mayor of Inalahan, the Honorable Tony Chargaff. I want to, at the outset, let you know that I did meet with the President of the Mayor's Council of Guam, Honorable PD Mayor Jesse Alec. We've discussed our testimony and is in full support of what I am to deliver here today. At the outset of my budget testimony and justification today, I want to reiterate that the Mayor's Council of Guam is fully appreciative of the support you have given us and of the suggestions you have also offered in providing more services to our communities. You know what the mayors do, and you know what they need to get it done. When it really comes down to it, all of you have always been receptive and attentive to the needs of our villages and always try to heed the call of our mayors and vice mayors. We thank all of you for your support and assistance for us, even if it was not a popular thing to do. We fully understand that all of us in the government must try to be resourceful with what we have. Our budget, as presented today, is straightforward. Our budget appropriation for FY21 was $10,832,000 $1,572. We requested for an appropriation of $14,208,863. For FY22, we are asking for $12,318,590, a decrease of $1,890,273 from our FY21 submission, but an increase of $1,486,018 from our FY21 appropriation. This increase is only attributed to cover actual personnel costs for FY22 and the increased cost of utilities and office lease. The biggest item on our budget, as with all other budget requests in the government, is for personnel. The 19 villages will comprise of 213 unclassified employees, inclusive of the 19 mayors, 7 vice mayors, and the executive director of the council. The central office has a total of 10 classified employee positions. We are requesting that 2 unclassified positions be added to the municipality of Sinahaña to operate the Central Community Arts Hall, which is slated to become completed in early FY22. The positions of theater, facility manager, and audio technician is requested. The total amount for salaries and benefits for these 2 positions is approximately $60,000. A status quo request of $70,000 for the daily operations of the Mayor's Council Administration Office, $35,000 for supplies and materials, and $35,000 for contractual services for office equipment, maintenance, internet service, printing services, and vehicle maintenance. There are 19 district offices, 13 community centers, 8 gymnasiums, 12 senior centers, 3 dementia centers, and a multitude of recreational facilities, basketball, baseball, softball, football, and a number of park facilities under the jurisdiction of the Mayor's Council or the village mayors. We do not anticipate to expend all these funds, especially in power, as we have already begun the change out of many of our incandescent light bulbs to low voltage LED bulbs and have started replacing our inefficient sodium recreation field lights with LED as well. As for water usage, we have seen a spike in consumption, and this we attribute to the constant need to sanitize our facilities and wash our hands constantly during these COVID months. The office space rental fees for FY21 is $111,300 and remains the same for FY22. The Streets Maintenance and Beautification SMB, the Island-wide Village Beautification Projects, and the Public Safety and Social Education Program had a combined FY21 appropriation of $729,501. We are requesting the same amount for FY22. However, we would like to request that these 3 funded programs be combined into one and can be called the Village Improvement Fund, instead of mayors trying to distribute and allocate funds from different funding sources and all with different spending protocols. It will be more prudent and efficient to give mayors the flexibility and latitude to plan, formulate, and expend from one fund of their village for their village operations and needs. We are fully aware that the villages all vary in land size. Gigo, 35.14 square miles, Dedido, 30.56 square miles, Jotnia, 20.28 square miles, and Inalahan, 18.85 square miles. Inalahan, in fact, is much bigger than the more populated village of Tamuning, Manila, or Barrigada, and the one-size-fits-all distribution of funds does not seem fair or justifiable to the larger and more populated villages of Dedido, Gigo, Tamuning, and Manila, or the bigger land area villages like Jotnia and Inalahan. This has been a bone of contention and area of debate for many years, and to date has not been properly addressed or resolved. In fact, we will continue to use a roads pavement inventory by the Department of Public Works, which is already 12 years behind the times, because this is what the budget mandates us to do. We recommend that the Office of Budget and Finance work with us to formulate a plan of distribution of these funds per village as a line item appropriation. Some mayors have asked me to be allowed to prepare their own individual budgets for the operational needs and capital outlay requests. This is perhaps the fairest way to get an idea of what each village needs instead of just dividing funds through percentages, road mileages, or equally. While we will never satisfy everyone's requests, at the very least we have allowed them to be a part of the process. I look forward to preparing the FY23 budget request in this manner. funds that have been established by law, the host community funds. The villages of Chalampago Ordered and Inalahan have been receiving annual appropriations of $150,000 each, as mandated by Public Law 3165. We anticipate that this amount will be appropriated for Chalampago and Inalahan in FY22. Just a note to consider, however, is that these premiums are to be reassessed and possibly readjusted every 5 years. I believe a reassessment is due. The Limited Gaming Fund, LGF, though not a part of our FY22 budget submittal, is deliberately left that way as it is this body that determines the 33% of the available funds collected in FY21 that will be made a part of the Mayor's Council FY22 budget. As you are aware, these funds can only be used for the purposes set forth in Public Law 34-42, Section 2. The FY21 appropriation is $535,801 and was equally distributed to each district in FY21 in the amount of $28,200. The mandate of Chapter 5, Title 11, Section 5204D1, delineating the allowed expenditures should be reviewed to allow mayors greater flexibility to use this fund for maintenance purposes related to their recreational uses. This past year, the ability to expend these funds was limited to almost zero, as there were no sports activities or sponsorship of sports teams. We recommend to amend the provisions of this law to include maintenance, not just repair and construction of facilities, and sponsorship of cultural performances or activities within the village. The last legislature appropriated $1.3 million from the Guam Environmental Protection Agency Recycling Revolving Fund to the MCOG to continue the island-wide village cleanup program. The program is currently active, and we have expended and or encumbered $1 million, and the balance of $300,000 was recently released to go to the phase 3 of our program. We anticipate to fully expend the $1.3 million by the end of this fiscal year. Since March of this year, we have removed close to 1,000 abandoned vehicles, 6,600 tires, 234 cubic yards of loose metals, over 800 items of various white goods, and are now actively collecting green waste. This will be a never-ending program from a someday-ending fund. We must also support legislation to levy a steeper fine or penalty to residents who are deliberately turning neighborhoods and their private properties into collection lots for broken and damaged vehicles. They use these lots to cannibalize vehicles, sell parts, or some other illegal activity. And when they have no use of their vehicle, dump them on our roadsides for other people to further cannibalize them. I still wonder how vehicles get to the side of roads with no tires on it. Unless, of course, they put on tires just to tow them and then immediately remove the tires when they find a convenient dumping site in the middle of the night. We need to get our tax compliance officers to visit these sites and ask for business licenses, and for EPA and the Division of Environmental Health to ask for collection permits. If we don't put a stop to this, we will never end the vicious cycle of abandoned vehicles and tires. While there has been consideration to transfer collection of abandoned vehicles to the Department of Public Works, we just want to be assured that the onus will not be thrown back on the mayors because residents go to them directly each and every time. Additionally, will DPW respond to mayors' calls immediately? If the funding is to be appropriated to the MCOG for FY22, then we ask that a provision in the FY22 Budget Act provide a miscellaneous provision to allow MCOG to exceed the $25,000 procurement authority only for the purposes of recycling efforts or the Recycling Revolving Fund until the end of FY23, so that villages like Deredo, Jigo, Mangilo, Agat, Tamuning, and Barrigara can collect more than 100 cars, which currently is assessed at $250 per vehicle, and any recyclable item that will exceed the $25,000 amount limit. This will allow us to make greater impact on the collection of recyclables without limiting the authority to do it. Other funds expended through the MCOG. Senior Center Operations and Adult Daycare Operations. Senior Center Operation grant funds from the Department of Public Health and Social Services for FY21 to date, $320,592.27. These funds are used for the 12 centers, Deredo, Estumbo, Jigo, Tamuning, Mangilo, Sinahanya, Aga, Jonia, Aganyahai, Santa Rita, Malesu, and Inalahan. The number of employees, 19, unclassified. Program end date is this year, September 30, 2021, and will most likely be extended into FY22. The adult daycare program grant funds from the Department of Public Health and Social Services to date is $560,611.04 for 3 centers: ADC Dementia Facility, Worcester Road, Dededo, Macheche Community Center, and Inalahan ADC South. The number of employees for this program is 35 limited term. Program end date is September 30, 2021. The MCOG will continue to operate the adult daycare centers in FY22 until a new qualified vendor is contracted by the Department of Public Health and Social Services through the General Services Agency. It is our understanding that a request for proposals to take operation of adult daycare program is being actively worked on. The million-dollar question then is, when are we going to reopen our centers? The answer is when the Governor's Office, the Physicians Group, the Division of Senior Citizens at Public Health are ready and confident that we can offer congregational services without risking the spread of COVID to any of our clients and our staff. In reality, though, our senior and adult daycare centers never closed, as we have continued to serve hundreds of meals on a daily basis, and our staff make contact with our seniors through phone calls or controlled visitation to ensure the health, well-being, and mental health of the clients we serve. We have also made repairs, renovations, and upgrades to our centers so that we can welcome back our clients to a safe, happy place during this lull of activity. The centers in Estumbo, Dededo, Malesu will undergo renovations before the end of this month. This was made possible by the $300,000 transferred by Governor Lulian Guerrero to the MCOG, $20,000 per center. The additional provision we're asking for in our FY22 Budget Act appropriation, we request to allow the Mayor's Council of Guam to carry over all unexpended lapsed funds for use in any category except personnel in FY22. Continuing appropriations to the Mayor's Council of Guam, the unexpended balance of funds appropriated to the Mayor's Council for FY21 shall not lapse and is available to the Mayor's Council for expenditures in FY22. Authority to make payments on prior year obligations, notwithstanding any other provision of law, the Mayor's Council of Guam is hereby authorized to utilize unexpended funds appropriated to the MCOG for FY21 and prior years to be expended to pay for prior year's obligations incurred. This, in essence, is our budget and available funds in our purview. The Mayor's Council of Guam has always been cooperative in keeping expenses and costs at a minimum. We are confident, however, that you will support our request so that the Mayor's Council of Guam can continue to do the good that it always strives to do for its residents. We have been one of the few agencies deemed essential during this pandemic. While our services were scaled back early in the pandemic, we never closed. We have delivered and distributed thousands of food commodities from the TFAP and USDA programs. We have opened our centers and facilities to provide testing and vaccination sites for our residents. We have assisted in site preparation with the Guam National Guard and the Department of Public Health and Social Services for drive-through COVID testing and vaccinations. We have delivered hundreds of hard copy schoolwork for our students and coordinated their breakfast and lunch deliveries. We have done all this and still carry out our usual roadside grass cutting and cleaning, chasing after illegal dump sites, picking up dead animals, and trying to control stray animals, providing mayor's verifications, and quite honestly, doing the thankless job that all our mayors and vice mayors and staff are mandated to do. Our first-line responders have been included in the COVID hazard pay and have been compensated up to December of 2020. We have 11 pay periods from December to May 2021 that we are awaiting payment for. We also had 2 mayors and several employees test positive for COVID. Thankfully, all have recovered. We were not in the mode of staying home and teleworking. In fact, one of our mayors got serious physical injuries doing her mandated job and responsibilities. Thankfully, she too is on her way to recovery. Senators, this is our FY22 budget request and submission. Simple and straightforward. We have been castigated and criticized because the majority of our funding sources comes from the Guam Highway Fund and the Tourist Attraction Fund. This is not of our making. As you may see in our eyes and feel in our hearts, we are tired of being thrown under the bus because our employees are being paid from a fund that is rightfully for the improvement of our highways. And now that I have asked for money, please allow me to apprise you of other areas that may affect our funding sources. The user's fee schedule that we propose to implement in FY21 has been shelved until the economy of our island rebounds and our people have a stable and reliable income source. We will continue to provide the services that our people need, like funeral escorts, community center uses, equipment uses, mayor's verifications, and the like, without asking them to pay from an already empty pocket. While we have good relations with our autonomous agencies, it is an unheard of request to ask that statute be proposed to ensure that the Mayor's Council of Guam be the agency of first choice to donate used vehicles and equipment to whenever they rotate out the inventory instead of just being auctioned off. As you pass by GSA and PD, I am sure you can see the many vehicles, vans, trucks, and the like parked in their lot. We are willing to pay to get these vehicles. The problem is we are usually at the bottom of the totem pole before we are asked to obtain such vehicles or equipment. Can a higher ranking be legislated for the MCOG? Can we mandate that responsible parties and their insurance carriers be held responsible for repair and/or replacement and payments made thereof of damages done to any facilities, street light poles, guardrails, etc. in our villages and throughout our island? These funds will offset any funds that our officers have to come up with to correct someone else's wrong or mistake. Payments should be made to the affected villages' non-appropriated funds, NAF. FEMA has granted approval to the MCOG to obtain funding for damages incurred on a cost-sharing basis to repair, refurbish, and replace damages made by typhoon winds on September 10 to 11, 2018, in the amount of $265,299.69. The federal share of 75% is $198,974.77. The non-federal share of 25% is $66,324.92 and is needed to be appropriated by this body in order for MCOG to obtain the FEMA funding for Barrigada, Chalampago, Ordut, Hagatnya, Manila, Momong, Totomaiti, Santa Rita, Sinahanya, Tamuning, Umatec, and Jigo. In addition, insurance coverage for all these replacements and or repairs in the amount of $84,453.14 must be obtained before final payment is made. We need your support in this. We continue to ask FEMA to allow us an extension of time to obtain these upfront costs so we can obtain the assistance that FEMA is offering. Every storm or typhoon-related emergency, we have personnel from different departments and agencies, GPD, GPA, DPW, Homeland Security, Office of Civil Defense, Guam Fire Department, that are eligible for hazardous pay, duty pay, and are reimbursed by FEMA. Our personnel are always the last to secure during a storm and the first to respond to an emergency during storms. FEMA has informed us that our personnel can also be reimbursed for hazardous pay if we are listed in statute as being eligible to receive hazardous pay. We seek your support on this to please include MCOG maintenance and community service workers as eligible employees to receive hazardous duty pay during times of emergency such as storms, village fires, or other emergencies that may entail hazardous duty. We have submitted to the Governor and to our Oversight Chair, Senator Jose Pedro Tolahi, our request for funding through the ARPA funds. While the Governor has committed to funding our FY21 shortfalls, we have not been notified of what that amount will be. I am also aware that Chairman Joe S. and Agustin has been in talks with our President Jesse Alec to provide $7 million from the ARPA to assist the mayors in a major cleanup program, and the Governor has committed to funding our FY21 shortfalls. The major cleanup program and the procurement of heavy-duty vehicles proposed by Senator Joe T. San Agustin is for the next 2 years. We hope that we do not get to have a piece of the pie when we hope that we get a piece of the pie when the American Rescue Plan Act is divided and served to entities that need it. Collaboration with outside entities. We will continue to work with the Guam Police Department to establish and train all our villages in the establishment of neighborhood watch programs. Many villages have seen success in reporting suspicious activity within their villages and even capturing such activities through electronic devices. We will also engage GPD in providing training to our personnel in traffic control, as many of our village staff are called on to offer such services when GPD is not available. We will continue to work with the Department of Labor to commit to the Senior Community Service Employment Program, CSEP, whereby our villages are augmented by qualified seniors to perform duties in our villages and are paid for by the Department of Labor. We will continue to work with Guam National Guard to provide a win-win situation whereby our troops are trained in heavy equipment operations and our villages get fields, recreation areas, ponding basins, etc., cleared and spruced up at no cost to the mayor's offices. We will continue to work with AmeriCorps and WestCare to provide learning and volunteer programs within our villages, especially for our youth. AmeriCorps has been very instrumental in assisting our villages in the food commodities distribution. We will continue to work with the judiciary to provide community service opportunities and credits to their clients in part of their sentencing, at the same time assist our villages, especially in maintenance efforts, again, at no cost to the MCOG. We will continue to work with GURA and GIDA to apply for and hopefully obtain grants to assist our villages in their structural needs. The villages of Sinahanya, Mongmon Totomaiti, and Humatak have been recent recipients of grants from GURA, and Sinahanya and Telefofo have been recently awarded grants from GIDA. We will continue to work with the Department of Agriculture to provide a successful solution to the stray animal problems we face today. The program has seen success in the past few months in the roundup of stray animals. Our only limitation is the lack of animal control officers at the Department of Agriculture and the lack of kennel space at GAIN. Our short and long-term goals to provide training opportunities to all our mayors, vice mayors, and administrative staff to undertake and complete the procurement 1 and 2 modules at GCC. To digitize all data collection within all the villages and internally connect with all other agencies requiring verification from mayor's offices, as well as transfer of residents from one village to another. We will seek inclusion of our unclassified personnel in any personnel salary classifications. Our average length of employment for our personnel in any position is 12.5 years, and yet their salary from day one to when they leave in 12 years is virtually the same. We just seek a fair adjustment to their salaries. We do not have a lack of employee problem. We have a lack of position problem. We will seek a permanent facility for the MCOG for a municipal building. We will seek to work with GARP-SPIMA in a possible long-term use of their very underutilized building in Hagatna, so we can save hundreds of thousands of dollars in lease payments. We want to thank Senator Tony Ada and all the other senators for supporting the tax break provisions of law to allow MCOG to engage with private entities in a private-public partnership to assist our communities to grow. Undangkulo na si Jesus Masi for all your support. Sinceramente, Angel Sablan. And now, I am happy to answer any of your questions.
Thank you, Executive Director Angel. Only thing missing is what you provided is short from what you were reading, so if you can provide the staff that copy so everybody can get it.
Yes,
I have a few questions to ask you.
Sure.
And it all pretty much will help you in what you need today. You asked at one point, carry over, right? How much is that you're anticipating?
We don't have the final figures, but it's enough to cover for our obligations that have not been paid, like we owe for, some villages owe still for their internet and telephone services to Docomo. to ERC and Benson for supplies that have been taken out by the village mayors, for national office supply and standard, again, for office supplies. We don't have any prior year obligations to pay personnel or other things. These are just vendors, but we have enough funds in our carryovers to take care of these responsibilities.
Angel, I'm just trying to understand because you guys got lump sum budget, right?
That's correct.
Okay, you got a lump sum budget, and my understanding of a lump sum budget is that you decide where you want to spend it.
That's correct.
you
The
don't
only
need-
thing that
you
we
don't-
can't use is the personnel funds.
I understand, but what you're identifying is expenses that has been incurred by the villages, that you want the labs to pay that. Why don't you just use it and pay it now?
We are.
Okay, so then you won't need to roll over money. If you got the money, use it, pay it, be done with it. So the year will end, and then you can start fresh per se for it, right? And I see the mayor there's like,
We are trying to erase all our obligations, but this is just a provision that will allow us for any unforeseen circumstances.
Oh, okay, if there's anything that does occur,
Yes.
before we get to the Budget Act, we'll get a hold of you, the OLB staff will get a hold of you, and then we'll start talking about what adjustment we need to make so that you guys can move forward comfortably, or at least in a most acceptable manner, okay?
Yes. Yes, sir.
You have a budget for supplies and equipment for the year. Have that all been ready, set, and
It's
for
all been
procurement?
planned out, Senator, yes.
okay? Do you have any? I'm just going to go over the standard questions. We did brief you about this. Okay, the federal assistance. How much federal money did you guys get, if anything, for the?
As I mentioned earlier, the only federal assistance money we get is from operations of senior center and adult care, daycare, and that comes from the Department of Public Health and Social Services.
Okay, good. And you mentioned it on your statement that I advised you of what the body, the 36 Guam legislature has proposed, submitted a letter and has introduced a resolution to convince the governor to give you $7 million. But, you know, you and I, and even Mayor Chagos, is well aware, when we went down there to do the ribbon cutting, remember for the Inalahan, the namesake? The governor said she's going to provide you funds. I'm hoping it's more than the $7 million we're asking, okay? Because it'll pretty much cover the needs of every village. Because we're proposing that it'll help you. What the governor has stated before is to help clean up the island. And I'm really hoping that when she does give you the funds, you can buy all the equipment you need. And always keep in mind, it's like what we do in the legislature, all our employees are unclassified, so are your employees. So if they give you enough funds and you intend to hire, just understand, there's no obligation of Guam to keep them employed. And you should not make an obligation of that, because when federal money runs out, what you normally have today is what you've worked with. When you get additional money, I hope there's no promise or perceive that we're going to continue the funding, because it just doesn't work that way. Because until we rebound on the tourism and whatever the industry is going to come up with Guam, then we'll know where we're going. Okay, I just want to make sure that we have that clear understanding on that one. And then on the issue with, we spoke to you about removing, and you mentioned it about DPW, so the mayors are not dependent on DPW recovering vehicles. You know, we talked about the abandoned vehicles. I spoke to Mr. Arreola, and I think we still got his hearing coming up, to commit to make sure that if he's going to take over that responsibility from the mayors, you identify where it's at, it's on them not to go and get it. And if it doesn't happen, you please let the oversight know, Senator Pito Terlay or myself, and we'll go after them, because we're not going to commit to something and the agency commit to and they don't fulfill, and then you're foot with the burden. It doesn't make sense. And if need be, we can put the caveat in the budget that the funds are there for the DPW to use, but if they don't, you pick it up. You know what I'm saying? We have to figure this. We have to figure out the wording to make sure that the job gets done. That's the goal. You need to move vehicles, and I agree with you, Angel, when you mentioned about revenue and tax, checking out the vehicles and EPA. Somebody's got to do that. Number one, I remember when I was at revenue and tax, we used to drive around as a compliance supervisor, and when we found in the residential area a bunch of cars or a bunch of wash machines and so forth, we found that they didn't have a license to begin with to operate in that vicinity. We gave them a fine. You know, there is a process where revenue and tax can fine them, and then it's on EPA now to come back to fine them if there's possible contamination of the ground, the soil, or what they have there, like vehicles or any other equipment. And you're right. We need to reach out to revenue and tax to get their folks out on the road as much as possible. And the same thing with EPA. And I do support that you've got the 1.3 million from EPA's recycling. I will support to continue that until such time you do get the ARP, that you do have strong footing on maintaining the island. And then you did mention, and we did talk about it, we'll sit down with as many mayors as you need to determine how the funding should be distributed among the mayors. Because magay na timege tao na nalahan but dongklutan na. Okay? So there's got to be some balance somewhere. And you mentioned you need to reassess, then do the reassessment that you need to do. Take the necessary steps and then communicate with us, and then we'll figure out how we need to do this. And we just move along, because I know the burden's always been on the mayor. There's no doubt about that, but we need to bring some parity where that not an agency have all the money. You don't have anything, but you have the responsibility. It doesn't work that way. There's got to be a shared effort to make sure things are done uniformly across the board. Okay, Angel? And I'll ask your oversight chair if he has any questions and comments. I'd like to also recognize that we have, that's joined us, Senator Joanne Brown and Senator Sabina Perez. We'll begin with the oversight chair, Senator Jose Piro Terlay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity and share my thoughts in support of the budget requested by the Mayor's Council of Guam. Mr. Chair, as a mayor for 12 years, I understand the struggle they have to support the needs of their villages and the tasks that they have to go through, and also the supporting the residents. And let me just say that the staff of the mayor's office provide, upkeep of the village facilities, buscad, pick up dead animals on the road, and all type of things that they do aside from our expectation. During the dengue fever outbreak that we had a few years ago back, many municipal employees assisted in cleaning up the debris in their villages to their own peril of getting infected themselves. Mayor's offices all over the island even distribute food, especially during this pandemic. And Angel, I extend this to you and the mayors, the congratulations and the hard work that you do, in making sure that we attend to the food distribution. And I ask my colleague to support this funding for the Mayor's Council of Guam and help me to provide any additional resources we can to support these hardworking mayors and ensure that they have the ability to serve our island residents to the best of their ability. And Mr. Chair, I don't have, let me just say on the onset that I've read the budget that was submitted by Angel, and actually I agree with all the things that you have mentioned, Angel, and I thank you very much. And I know there's some shortfalls that we need to include in the way we iron out the money for the Mayor's Council. There's only one thing that I wanted to raise in as far as the 2021 budget. Angel, in fiscal year 2021 appropriation, there was 535 $801,000, and that money was distributed to the different villages, and they were given, I guess, 27,000 or something?
$28,200.
27, right? Or 28,000. And I'm just kind of curious, what happened to the 22 budget? How come I didn't see any distribution allotment for, like 2021?
That's because the determination of how much that will be is made by the legislature. We don't have those figures.
Okay.
It's something that's always silent when we submit the budget, but then when you prepare the budget for your deliberations, you get the info, I guess, from DOA as to how much was collected
Okay.
the
I was
previous
just
year.
wondering because,
Yeah.
it was on the fiscal year 2021 budget, and it doesn't show on the fiscal year 2022, but that's okay.
I'm assuming it's going to be less than what we got in FY21 because there was no activity for
Okay.
the entire year as far as the gaming activities were concerned.
Okay, and the chairman asked for the carryover. When I've been mayor for like 12 years, and I represented the mayor's council as the legislature representative, and all through the years that I was mayor, actually, the carryover is always there.
And
And
that's
I-
what helped you get your dump truck and your backhoe for Zonia.
Lo STNJ be sangana na todo itinigemo guni todo yun pula yun indication guni gizomo budget request. I have no question about it because I know for a fact that though you put down because this is just what is given to you as a basis for your budget, I'm telling you right now, the Mayor's Council, the bulk of work out there is within the villages. And I know that because of my tenure with the Mayor's Council, serving as the mayor for Zona for 12 years. And that, Mr. Chair, that is all that I have. I just want to make sure that we support the carryover and whatever Angel had mentioned on his budget request. And I want to thank all the mayors for doing a good job. Thank you very much. And I want to thank my colleagues to support me on this. Please support the Mayor's Council and their budget request. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Choi. And just one note, Angel, you mentioned your staff, the mayors and staff, and I do support you and I do agree with you. You're first out there and you're last coming in. I know that for a fact. I see that all the time. What's going on making sure your people are getting paid? I think you mentioned it somewhere in your presentation that it was December, it ended, they haven't paid you for remaining of the year or what?
The previous COVID payments came from the CARES Act, and that has already been exhausted. So the current amounts to be paid are coming out of ARPA. So we're just waiting for the accounts to be established, the Department of DOA, and they've already assured us. And once that's established, then they will get the entire amount one time.
Well, maybe you can just ask them while they're waiting for the ARP, right? You're talking about the American Recovery.
Yes.
Maybe what they can do is take a look at their surplus money that they receive, that they're paying vendors, and treat your employees and everybody in the mayors as vendors. There was work performed, pay due. It's no different as a business. They provide the service, you pay them. All I'm saying is just reach out and see how they can adjust. Get you paid, get you settled.
Yeah.
So that when the ARP comes up, let them reimburse themselves,
Yeah.
but not be a burden to the employees. And so you can continue doing what you need to do. All right?
Yes. President Alec and actually Vice President Hoffman have been in active communication with the front office to make sure
Okay.
that this gets paid.
All right, thank you. Senator Tello, do you have any questions for the panel or comments? I'll get you and then I'm going to get Tony Ada. So you want Tony first and then
Yes,
you?
yes, he
Okay,
was here
Senator
before.
Tony, do you want to have any questions or comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, I don't have any questions. It's just to thank the Mayor's Council of Guam for the budget proposal and the mayors for all that they do for our community. Absolutely, they are the front line to everything that happens, and they've been there throughout this whole pandemic. Hopefully, we'll be able to find the funds and get you the budget that you had requested for. And hopefully that we'll be able to work together both with the oversight chair, Senator Pito, and the budget chairman, Senator San Agustin, to accomplish that mission. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. Angel, thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
Senator Tony. Senator Tello, do you have any comments or questions for the panel?
Sijus Masi, Mr. Chair, and good morning to my colleagues. Hafaday. Good to see you, Angel, always, and of course, in Allahan rules. Thank you for being here, Mayor. This is your first year as mayor, and you've done so much, in the community, and not only in Allahan, but helping the Mayor's Council as well as other villages too, as well. So I greatly appreciate. Makes me even prouder to be from an Allahan girl. But one of the things I've been working on is the abandoned vehicle and the issues that's been going, that transpiring between mayors to GPD to now I'm hearing that it's been transferred over, this project has been transferred over to DPW. And I don't know, I've heard countless, stories and I've had calls to my office that DPW is not answering calls, providing the help that you need at the Mayor's Council. And it just really worries me that now you're taking this abandoned vehicle and now it's being sent over to DPW. Did at least DPW give you a plan on how they're going to address these abandoned vehicles or how they're going to address the calls that come in from the mayor's office? Because you're the front line. You see this every day. You see that one vehicle that's been sitting on the road for 2 months, noticing now the tires are gone and a couple other parts are gone. And then you even find it's even difficult for mayors to find out if this particular vehicle even is registered still. The one story that I received was when GPD came up to a vehicle that was parked on the side of the road, noticed that the license plates were stolen license plates. And all that GPD was just take the license plate and just left the vehicle there. As far as I'm concerned, this is, this is something that's a part of should be an ongoing investigation. What are these stolen license plates doing on this vehicle? It should be impounded. Oh, but wait, GPD doesn't have an impoundment station area or location. This is an issue that's been going on, and just this morning, I got a call about a vehicle down in Ipan that's been sitting out there for 2 months on the side of the road. And the suggestion is if a vehicle is sitting on the side of the road longer than 24 hours, you should take it. But how can you do it now that's being transferred over to DPW? And they're not in your villages every day and see what goes on. So Angel, can you tell me, did DPW give you a plan on how they're going to address these abandoned vehicles? Who's going to get the funding?
To be quite frank and honest, Senator, this is just preliminary thinking that maybe we should do it this way. I have not discussed this with DPW or Vince Ariola. We just discussed this with the finance chair, Senator San Agustin. It's nothing set in stone. It may not even happen that way. But if it does, our only concern is like your concern. We don't want the mayors to be blamed for vehicles still sitting on the side of the road. If anybody wants to assist, any other department wants to assist us, we welcome that. But once they get the money to do the work, then they better do the work. But no, we have not gotten into any sit-down meetings face-to-face with Public Works on this. It's just a proposal. It's just something that the Office of Finance and Budget has been thinking about to see whether it's a more effective way.
Was this announced during one of your the mayor's meeting that they have on a monthly basis? Was this discussed?
Yes, I announced it to the mayors that this is what I discussed with Senator San Agustin. Some of them welcomed it because then that released them of the responsibilities to keep tabs of where these vehicles are at and all that. But some of them are also concerned that even if Public Works does take over the responsibility, it'll still be the village staff that has to go out there and identify where these vehicles are at and make sure that they're accounted for and on all that. So it's something in the works, something that has to be really ironed out before any transfer of money. And the other part of this equation is EPA. because they do have rules and regulations covering the recycling revolving fund.
Right.
And so,
Right,
you know,
yeah.
but we like Senator says, until there is money identified for other agencies or from ARPA to continue, then this body will probably continue to appropriate to the MCOG.
We also need to incorporate EPA into this too. I think it's going to be a pyramid of different agencies collaborating together. But I have always thought that the mayors have been at the front line. They're able to see it firsthand. They're the ones are being so frustrated with the issues that are happening with these abandoned vehicles that, they have a good handle on it. And now to pass it over to DPW it doesn't make any sense at this point. So I hope, I'm working with a couple other senators regarding this to build this pyramid of, counterpoints and to make sure that it's addressed.
I'm sure we will fully vet this before it even becomes.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'll be
Something in
reaching
reality.
out. Yeah, I'll be reaching out to your office and a roundtable. Also, we, in a resolution that we put forward regarding funding from the ARP, it's $7 million. I think our good chair might have mentioned that we offered to the Mayor's Council. So my question, Angel, is have you asked the governor for any ARP funding?
Yes, we have.
And
We have
how much
submitted to the
did you
governor.
ask for?
We asked for actual shortfalls from FY21. We asked for $805,694. Then we asked for $1,380,000 in our wish list for lease and/or purchase of heavy equipment in 3 regions: North, Central, and Southern. 3 backhoes, 3 air curtain burners, 3 heavy-duty mulchers, 3 21 cubic yard dump trucks, 3 tractor mowers with side cutter attachments, and it will be 1 equipment per region. Then we asked for vehicle purchases for the 19 villages. We haven't had any purchase of new vehicles for any of the villages since 2016. That's 5 years ago. So we asked for that. We went to the high end of what these vehicles will cost at $60,000 each for $1,140,000. We also offered an alternative to purchasing those vehicles, and that is to buy it from the General Services Agency at a much lesser price. And this would allow us to get 2 per village, between $4,000 and $5,000 per vehicle, and that will come up to $190,000. Or the other alternative to that is, of course, provide us the money to repair and maintain our existing vehicles that can be made operable. We're asking for $10,000 per village at $190,000. And then, as Senator Sanagan has requested, we asked for additional funding for recycling in the island-wide cleanup program from June 2021 to September 30, 2022 at $500,000 a quarter, amounting to $2.5 million. So that we have sent to the governor's office, we've sent to BBMR, we've provided our oversight chair with that amount.
What is the total, please, Angel?
Aside from the 2.8 million, I have to add up the rest to come, but it comes up to over $7 million.
Over $7 million?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We're almost there. We almost had it right for that one. Okay. The other one is, okay, that was answered earlier. I'm not going to go there. Well, I just want to thank you so much for all you did during COVID. I firsthand watched some of the mayors. I mean, they never took a break. During the whole time at COVID, they were out there, regardless, putting themselves on the line, helping constituents, and especially those who were homebound in their villages, to provide them supplies. That was amazing. Some of the work that the mayors did they're heroes for doing that during a pandemic like that we had. So I just want to thank you so much for stepping up to the plate and doing that and being our frontliners and our heroes during this COVID. So much was learned. And moving forward, I just hope that we can continue to support the mayor's office, because you definitely showed your worth during this pandemic. Thank you so much. Si Diyos mas, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator Tello. Senator Joanne Brown, do you have any questions, ma'am, or comments?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I did want to ask, looking at the breakdowns of the different villages, and I know it's been debated over the years as to whether or not larger villages should get a higher percentage of the budget because of the number of population and certainly the area that they have to cover. But in general, why are there differences with regards to the personnel? You were mentioning earlier that, the employees, if they start at a certain position 10 years later or whatever, they may still have the same salary. So why is there inconsistencies between the villages, even the smaller or medium-sized villages, in terms of the amount of monies that are being asked for their respective villages?
Are you talking about operational funds,
No,
Senator,
just,
or
just
salaries?
personnel, just personnel for salaries and benefits.
Okay, you're going to see variations in salaries through the villages. That's because some mayors take the out-of-the-box approach and they save one position, not use it, not utilize it, so that make it available to upgrade the remaining positions as far as their salary is concerned.
But don't you, mayors, I assume these are unclassified employees, don't you have the latitude to address and decide their salary amounts?
No.
You don't have that ability?
No.
And you don't address any increments to these employees either?
There are no increments. And that's why I mentioned that if there is a personnel classification study done, we would like our unclassified employees to be a part of that study so that at least there is some provision, at least one time annually, 50 cents or something raised there. I'm thankful that the last legislature did allow us to give our employees some adjustment, and we have put that into play. But still, our employees are probably some of the least paid, salary-wise, maintenance workers in the island of Guam. And I'm afraid one day that the minimum wage per hour is going to exceed what our employees are getting.
Well, I'm sure if that does, Mayor, then we'd have to come back to the drawing board and readdress that for the mayors
But
out
I
in our
do
community.
thank you for your concern, and that's why we're asking for that inclusion into any study that's made.
I don't think anyone argues the amount of work or efforts, and certainly talk about front line. I think we all recognize that with the work collectively that the mayors do. But I always am going to cast that net of caution, because certainly, and I'm very supportive when it comes to frontline services for our community. I mean, I'm looking with our chairman the same thing of asking for our conservation officers, our park rangers, those individuals that work in the government that are directly interfacing with our community, because there's many positions in Government of Guam our people never deal with, never interface with, never directly benefit in their view from the work that's being done. But certainly it's going to have to be addressed at the expense of something else in the government, simply because of where we're at. I mean, right now it looks good. Certainly, as the chairman had mentioned, we're hopeful that the governor will provide the funding under the American Rescue Plan to the mayors, especially for the opportunities you mentioned to get equipment and other things that are direly needed out there in the village. We're very hopeful that she will do that and take advantage of the opportunity. But, I'm concerned about the next year or two in the budget as to whether or not, with our economy, that we're going to be able to absorb all the government we seem to want to give our people. Whether or not we're going to have enough revenue coming in. And I don't believe our industry is going to light up overnight. I mean, I'm sure it's going to be a process just in rehiring personnel and rebuilding the industry, our private sector and our tourism and the support businesses that have been involved in that industry's existence. So I'm just putting that out because I don't want to sit here and say, oh yes, we're going to give you all this and it's looking good, and then a year from now it may be a very different reality in the budget, and then everyone's got to take a cut. Maybe it's a question of degree, but I just think we need to be mindful of that, because every year, I've been at this legislature, even though it's a big gap since my last visit, the tendency to always want more money is there for everybody. Everybody wants and needs more. But I don't necessarily know that our people can generate the amount of money we need to give them all the government that we want to give them. And it's more so our side to want to give that than what our people want to pay for. So I'm just putting that out because I don't want to be here today, here you go, and then next year we're starting to cut. So I just think collectively, and those of us in leadership, as the mayors are, with those of us here and the governor, we just have to be mindful of that. I mean, of course, wanting to give everything, it sounds good, it makes us look good. But I'm concerned. I want to maybe able to make sure that these core programs are able to continue through When what I see in the picture, at least looking in my little crystal ball, is that I see a decline in the next year or two of revenue, especially, the federal government, these enormous amount, unprecedented amount of funds that have been coming to us decrease. And as the U.S. economy continues to build back up, there's going to be less concern about what's going on Guam. And I just want to put that out there because I just think it's fair to be upfront and direct, and so that we can also plan and anticipate. If there are things we can get now, these equipment and resources that we can bend, by all means, let's get it, because a year or two from now, that might not be the opportunity.
Yes, Senator, and that's why we didn't ask for any additional personnel funding from ARPA, because exactly what you're saying.
No, and
we don't want to hire somebody and then get rid of them next year.
I agree, and I think also with even the additional funding, as we've mentioned, to other government agencies, and while we understand there may be a need, granted, there's always the need, we'd hate to see any of this funding be used to hire personnel, and then a year or two from now, we simply cannot afford to pay. That to me is just, a lot of people will plan their life, and then all of a sudden, surprise, surprise, and if we don't have what can we do? I just don't think it's good to be dishonest to people, to make them think one thing, and then the reality at the other end is very different,
Yeah, we don't want to give anybody any false hope.
No, and I appreciate it, and thanks for letting me know about your employees, because I think that's something that I was not aware of in terms of, whether or not you had the flexibility to determine their salary level so that could be adjusted according to the needs of your village, or, you certainly could should have the ability to increase those of your employees that are, even if you had a set budget, if you had that flexibility to reward those employees that, are definitely performing.
Yeah. We do have the flexibility just within that amount that is appropriated to us, but that means sacrificing somebody's position to do that.
I see. I appreciate it. Thanks so much for providing your testimony. Hello, Mayor Chargawan.
Thank you,
How are
Senator.
you? Good to see you again.
Thank you, Senator Brown.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Paris, do you have any questions or comments to the mayors, to the
Thank-
panel?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning to Executive Director Sablan and Mayor Chargawan. I'm very grateful for the testimony that you provided. And I know last budget cycle, the Mayor's Council really took a hit because a large part of their funding was the tourist attraction fund. And in looking at your testimony today, it shows the resiliency that you are looking for solutions and alternate revenue sources. You're looking to greater collaborations with other agencies. And so I think that's a really good sign, and I do want to encourage and promote that as well. There's just a couple questions I have with the testimony that you provided, and I think it's interesting that one of the solutions is the FEMA funds. So have you worked with the state clearinghouse to identify perhaps there's maybe something in the local funding that can apply towards the match, the 25% match?
I have not, but certainly that's an option. It was just always my idea that we had to have it appropriated from our own budget to cover for the 25% upfront costs. We've asked for this for a couple of years. As you can see, the FEMA money was available since 2019. So we keep asking for an extension of time to find the money somewhere. And hopefully this will be the year.
Okay, and so you're working closely with the, is it Office of Homeland Security or Civil Defense?
Yes.
Okay, and then, I guess perhaps working with the State Clearinghouse to help you kind of identify if there's already funds that can qualify, perhaps you may be able to obtain that other 75%.
Yeah, we were hoping that with the President's announcement that FEMA will cover 100% of projects that state entities have, that we would get 100, but it's had to be COVID related, and of course our damages were not COVID related, so that's still 25-75.
Okay, but for this one that was in 2018, does it have to be COVID related or no?
Yes, I mean, no, it was not COVID related, so it does not qualify for the 100%.
Okay, so perhaps there's a solution, relatively quicker solution for that one. The other thing, in your testimony, you said about used vehicles. I think that's very interesting. That's an interesting solution where entities, rather than auctioning it off, can perhaps donate the vehicles to the Mayor's Council. So have you been in talks with so is it the autonomous agencies?
Autonomous and some line agencies. Some villages mayors do get lucky, and they, to their connections and or friendships with heads of agencies, do sometimes get vehicles transferred to them. GPD, for one, always looks out for the mayors to transfer whatever vehicles that they are no longer needed or are being replaced, to give it to the mayors. But we're talking more like entities like GPA and GWA that have the heavy-duty trucks that they replace. I mean, we could use a bucket truck if we really look at it, because there are tall trees out there that need trimming and cutting. We could use your utility trucks to carry our bush cutters and our, whatever is needed to maintain the road. So, and we know that every time we turn around, we see a brand new truck on the road that belongs to GPA or GWA. So we just wonder where the older ones have gone.
Yes, yeah, and again, I think perhaps, to build resiliency, there should be more of that networking and support. So that's something to definitely to follow up with.
And we'll bring it up with the CCU. Maybe they can try to help us that way.
Sure, yeah, and then, I know it's rates, it's based on rates, the rate payers, so there's some perhaps considerations, but if they're giving up the vehicle, that should be less of a barrier. Then the other thing, of course, is the recycling revolving fund. So the 1.3 million that was appropriated last year, I'm really glad to see that there has been a lot of robust activity in regards to collection of abandoned vehicles and all the abandoned goods. So do you see a decrease in the amount of abandoned items as you're doing this? As you're collecting these abandoned items, do you see there's a decrease happening in the community?
I don't. We're decreasing what we see on the roads, but we know that there are more out there that we have not seen. But in fact, every time we move something pops up somewhere else. Just today on my own road in Woostic, I passed by going home yesterday, there was no car. Today, there's one with broken windshields, no tires. And so when people are hearing about we're really collecting, so they just seem to take these vehicles and refrigerators and tires and just put it on the side of the road because, the government will take care of it. But as far as decrease, hopefully there is a decrease. But we know that there's more to collect. And there's more funds needed to continue to do these collections. But we're also realistic. We can't ask for more money than we can expend in a certain quarter, because then we'll be just returning it back to EPA. And so this time around, with the 1.3 million, we don't anticipate of returning anything, maybe a couple $100 back to EPA. But this is the first time that we've been able to actually do it by phases and control it, and to make sure that the funds are being expended. We've already exhausted 100 cars for Dededo, 100 cars for Jigo, 100 cars for Tamuning, and there's still more cars to collect. But yes, as far as decrease in the number, obviously there's going to be a decrease because we're collecting it. But we haven't collected as much as we want to collect.
Okay, thank you. And I know the Recycling Revolving Fund also allows for, should we get to that point where we cleared the island of all these abandoned vehicles, there's still other things that could be done. So it's really I'm glad to see that you guys are now collecting green waste.
Yes.
And working towards more of the recycling efforts. So I think, that hopefully is a transformation that can occur in the near future with the Recycling Revolving Fund. And, my hope is also to introduce and update that so that it can include more, expand it to other, zero waste initiatives, which I hope the mayors are, I expect the mayors to participate, so.
Yes, Senator, and as I mentioned earlier in my testimony, as far as the Recycling Revolving Fund, the only limitation is that my limitation is $25,000 per purchase order. And so when I give that to Dededo and they collect the 100 cars at $250, there goes the 25,000, they can't collect one additional car without authority to do it. So that's why I was asking, can you please find a way to exempt the MCOG only for the revolving recycling fund, to give them authority to go over that 25,000 limit that we do have now, so that if Laredo has 1,000 cars, we can collect 1,000 cars without the mayor there worrying, well, I collected 100, now 900 are still going to sit there until next time. In order for this project to continue seamlessly, we just need to, and I'm only asking for authority for one fiscal year. If it works, maybe we can continue another fiscal year. If it doesn't, then that's for me to answer.
Yeah, I think this 25,000 is for the small purchases, right? That's the limit.
Yes.
And perhaps by going through a different procurement process, like the IFBs, the IDIQs, maybe that might be the solution. But
yes,
yeah,
and
perhaps.
What we're doing right now is we're giving a lot of small businesses an opportunity to work with us, not just to make money, but to also assist us in clearing our island. Instead of just giving it to one big company to take the whole contract, and we don't see where it goes. But here we give one small business here, towing company there, one other towing company over there. It makes them happy because they get gainfully employed. The people get gainfully employed. We give them an opportunity to earn something. And so that's one way to do it. Yeah. And we hope we can continue it that way.
Yeah, I think that's maybe the limitation of using that is, if you're going to proceed in that fashion, that's the limitation. But if you want to use a bigger portion of the money, then you'd have to switch to a different source selection. But that's something that maybe perhaps we can discuss a little bit more. So I like a lot of these suggestions that you made in your testimony. So I am going to follow up with, especially in the previous public hearing that I had regarding illegal dumping. There were some suggestions that were made during that time, and I think you've reiterated here in your testimony. So I would like to continue to work with the mayors on this. So again, thank you for your testimony, and look forward to, I think, just a lot of what the comments of my colleagues mentioned, that, the additional monies from the federal funds to cover shortfalls is essential, considering you took a big hit last term. And, again, we do turn to you as when times of disasters. And, I feel that, we need to recognize and compensate you as the frontliner of our community. So thank you for all your hard work and commitment to the community.
Thank you, Senator. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Senator Perez. Angel, I got a simple question for you. Mayors are authorized to give citation for littering and stuff like that?
Yes, they are.
What is the rate when you find a vehicle? A vehicle abandoned is actually littering. It's not abandoned. Nobody abandons anything. You dumped it, you littered. That's really the rule. That's really the proper definition. But
who do you write it to?
But how much is that? How much is that? Is that $500 or $1,000?
It's actually up to the court. It's up to the court. There is a fee schedule. I don't have that in front of me, but the court is the one that imposes the fine.
Well, Angel, maybe we need to introduce an amendment then, for the purpose of, if the mayors are the one and your employees are finding the abandoned vehicle, then every abandoned vehicle or every littered vehicle, I never used when I was in the police department, neither does Pito. When we're in the police department, we don't use the license plate as the means of identifying who the owner is. There's a VIN number. On every vehicle, there's a VIN number, maybe on the door, on the chassis, on the end. There's a VIN number. That's the proper identification of the owner. And wouldn't it be nice or appropriate if you find a vehicle that's left on the side of the road after so many days, like Senator Teller brought up, 24 hours, 48 hours, and it's not removed, the mayor has the option, tag it, send the bill to the owner, they're obligated to pay it, but the money goes to the mayor's council. Because you're the one that's looking, you're the one that's going after it. And maybe that will entice the folks that own vehicles, that if you sell it and you don't have it properly transferred and it's left on the side of the road, you are still, you're technically responsible. And maybe that's what needs to happen. We need to bring owners more responsible for their vehicles. And then if they're found on lots, on homes, that they're cannibalizing, it's all in your statement, that you can tag them for littering. Because there's got to be a mechanism to force the proper disposal of vehicles, white goods, and so forth. Because I don't know about white goods, about tracking it, but I know for a fact for vehicles, you can find the owner all the way to the last part of the chassis. The VIN number is there. You can track them, and you can send a bill to them. And maybe we need to take a look at, because I understand it goes to the court, and I was talking to OFB, we were texting each other. The courts get the money. You guys do the work. All they do is process it. Maybe we need to figure out a way how to change that. Maybe they'll get 10% or 20% of the value of the citation for littering. And then the mayors maintain that funds. Then you figure out what to do with it. I'm not going to tell you use it for your pay increase or whatever, but let the mayors decide. And maybe that will instill that, I honestly believe that the people of Guam listening to me right now are saying, I better not find my car that I sold, because Senator Snoxing wants to go after me, go after the owners. And I do want to. Because in Jigo, we see that a lot. Just going up Marine Drive, for some of you that come up to Deredu, there's a vehicle that ran off the road when you're heading north, and it hit the fence, the brand new fence. The vehicle's still sitting there. It's a white color sedan. And it's been more than a month now. The fence is already starting to rust because they damaged it. And it's a brand new fence by the military. Why is it sitting there? There's one closer to where I live. The tires have been removed. The doors are gone. I'm expecting that to get burned soon. Somebody needs to be responsible. And the only person that's responsible is not the mayor, the owner of the vehicle. And if the mayor goes out there and finds the VIN number, because it's, that there's no privacy when you go with that information up to Revenue and Tax and says, I need to know who the owner is, they have to provide that. There's no privacy about that. That's not a tax document. It's ownership. They'll provide you the owner and the residence. You send them a bill. And maybe that's the message that needs to come out. Don't mess with Guam. Take your vehicles home. If you don't like it, sell it, turn it into Global or wherever and dispose of it. And I agree with you that maybe we need to figure out a way how to test the system, that $25,000 limit you got. Maybe we need to figure out a way. I'll get with Senator Sabina Perez because, she's handles the procurement side. We need to figure out a way how we can take care of this, because I'm assuming and I'm hoping that the folks in the Mayor's Council have completed the 4 modules in procurement and whatever for contracting. And if you've done that, I think she'll be satisfied. Then maybe we can figure out a way how to adjust that, because you're only talking about getting rid of vehicles. You're not talking about everything else. And we're restrictive to exactly what you're saying. It'll be a test pilot for a year. And if it works, then we make it permanent. And we just let the system work its way. All right? Other than that, Angel and Mayor Chargaloff, I like that how Senator Tello says, Famagun. My wife's family is from Iran. Masi familiang golafun ginalan. There being no one else testified, this will conclude the budget hearing on the Mayor's Council, and we will be getting together in reference to DPW's issue. If they don't have a plan, you're going to keep the funds. That's my opinion. They got to have a plan to make sure it works for you, because it works for the people of Guam. The committee will continue to receive testimony. Please address your written testimony to the Committee on General Government Operation, Appropriation, and Housing, and submit it via email to Senator Joe S. Snoxing at gmail.com, or to my office located at Rand Care Building, second floor, Suite 3, 761 Marine Corps Drive, Tamuning, Guam. Since Masi for your attendance and participate in today's hearing. And for those at home, thank you for watching. The budget hearing on Bill 55-36 CR relative to the Mayor's Council of Guam is now adjourned. It is now 10:23. Thank you, and please be safe. Take care.